Hello and welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Layo Adegoke. We begin here in Nigeria, where there's been a major shake-up in the country's security circle as the service chiefs have all tendered their resignation to the President Muhammadu Buhari, who immediately ordered the appointment of new officers as replacements. The new service chiefs are Major General Leo Irabo, who is now the new Chief of Defense Staff. Major General Atahiru takes over as the Chief of Army Staff. Rear Admiral A.Z. Gambo is the new Chief of Naval Staff, while the Air Vice Marshal I.O. Amawu is appointed Chief of Air Staff. This is the first time President Muhammadu Buhari is changing the guard since becoming the Commander-in-Chief in 2015. The outgoing service chiefs are General Abayomi Gabriel Olonishaki, Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, the Chief of Army Staff, Vice Admiral Ibok Ibas, the Chief of Naval Staff, and Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, the Chief of Air Staff. There had been pressure from Nigerians for a change of the service chiefs following the rise in cases of insecurity in different parts of the country. COVID-19 stories. A year ago this week, fewer than 1,500 cases of COVID-19 had been reported to the WHO, including just 23 cases outside Nigeria. This week, this year, 2021, WHO Chief Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus says they expect to reach 100 million reported cases worldwide. Speaking at a press conference, Dr. Tedros said 2 new studies show that if the world doesn't deliver equitable, it wouldn't just be a moral failure, but an economic failure.
A year ago today, fewer than 1,500 cases of COVID-19 had been reported to WHO, including just 20 cases outside China. This week, we expect to reach 100 million reported cases. Last week, I said that the world stood on the brink of a catastrophic moral failure if it doesn't deliver equitable access to vaccines. 2 new studies show that it wouldn't just be a moral failure. It would be an economic failure.
Even you achieve universal vaccination in advanced economies, meaning your restaurants are open, your life back to normal, right? Your services sectors are going to work fine. You are going to have a huge hit in your tradable sector. And then because advanced economies are very large and very connected to global trade and global production networks, they are going to, not only feel this hit, as Dr. Tedros mentioned, they are going to, in the worst case scenario, bear half of this global cost, even they managed to vaccinate all their citizens.
Well, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has warned rich countries against vaccine nationalism, saying that it risks endangering the recovery of not only countries like South Africa, but all nations. Vaccine nationalism is where wealthier countries effectively hoard COVID-19 vaccines for their own citizens, freezing out less prosperous countries such as South Africa. Speaking virtually during the World Economic Forum's digital Davos conference on Tuesday, Mr. Ramaphosa said this is quickly becoming a problem and needs to be addressed collaboratively. I beg your pardon.
And some countries have even gone beyond and acquired up to 4 times what their population needs. And that was aimed at hoarding these vaccines. And now this is being done to the exclusion of other countries in the world that most need this. We are all not safe if some countries are vaccinating their people and other countries are not vaccinating. We all must act together in combating coronavirus because it affects all of us equally.
Mauritius has begun a nationwide COVID-19 vaccination campaign with medical staff at ENT Hospital, the main treatment center, being the first to be immunized. 3 teams of health workers have also been deployed at Victoria's Hospital in the town of Quatre Bones. Those vaccinated will get a second dose of the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine in about 20 days. Mauritius received 100,000 doses of vaccine from India on Friday. Now, a batch of 240,000 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine is expected to arrive the country by 15th of February, according to the World Health Organization representative there. The Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines were obtained through COVAX, a global initiative led by the WHO to make sure vaccines are shared fairly among all nations, rich and poor. Well, a spokesperson for Zimbabwe's government, who called doctors in the country medical assassins, has apologized. In comments posted to Twitter, Nick Mangwana had suggested that 4 cabinet ministers who died in recent months of coronavirus had in fact been eliminated. Zimbabwe's Medical Association reacted with fury and insisted their staff were working hard with few resources and little pay to fight the pandemic. Now, following the backlash, Mr. Mangwana stated on Twitter that he had no intention to offend, adding that he hopes Zimbabweans could move on and not be distracted from the work at hand. Well, joining us now to discuss this is Zimbabwean journalist Nigel Yamutumbu from Harare. Thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa. Mr. Mangwana has apologized, and after his apology, he says he hopes Zimbabweans can move on. What has been the reaction to his apology? Have they moved on?
Well, his remarks were really unacceptable, deplorable, and it's one thing to obviously retract the statement, but another to see some sort of a genuine question around what is government's official position on this particular issue, because he is a top government official, and for him to have made those remarks without then now government really pronouncing themselves, and more so telling the country of their plan there on vaccine and so forth, would be absolutely critical. So, well, the news has really just been received by people demanding more answers than just the apology.
Now, could you just give us more details on this theory, that led to this offensive remark, the allegation that doctors are deliberately killing top officials? Tell us more about what happened.
Well, we have over the last couple of days experienced the deaths of a few ministers, top government officials, and indeed the pandemic has been ravaging among the ruling elite. And this has led to a lot of conspiracy theories around why it is the ruling elite are suffering at the hands of this global pandemic. One school of thought being that the elites had taken the vaccine and it was claiming lives. Others, it was propagated by the permanent secretary, who has since withdrawn his remarks on the same. And obviously the other being the scientific reasoning that this virus knows no social status, knows no social standing. It is real, and it is even, taking and accounting for the lives of the elite and the powerful. So the statement, the remarks were really in response to the high number of high-profile deaths that have been happening in Zimbabwe.
All right, Nigel, just finally, before I let you go, how is the health system coping with the COVID-19 pandemic in Zimbabwe?
I would say it's a near crisis, in all intents and purposes. I think the government has been struggling to provide the basics. That is what would, support the system. Be they ventilators, be they, the requisite equipment for, the mild to severe cases of COVID. There is a huge debate that is ongoing on the use and treatment of COVID, be they on certain medications that doctors are recommending here, or traditional methods, and so forth. But in terms of the public health system, it's still in dire need for some injection. It's still in dire need for real support. And we do not actually have a vaccination plan as a country as yet. What we do have are just the lockdown measures, which I understand are going to be reviewed on Sunday, and it will be interesting to see whether the review will just be locking down or will be introducing a new vaccine, a policy for the country going forward.
All right, then. Thank you so much. Nigel Yamutumbu, Zimbabwean journalist there from Harare. Still in southern Africa, some foreign business owners are counting their losses in South Africa's coastal city of Durban after an attack. One of those affected is a Nigerian who allegedly had his shop petrol bombed, losing everything. They claim they called for help from the police, but they were not successful. We, however, spoke to the police spokesperson in Durban, Colonel J. Naika, who gave more details of what happened and what the police has done.
And it happened that one of the two properties now was managing and the other one is assistant. But the shocking story here is according to the Nigeria. When those big that campaign, they trying to defend the shop, the policeman that was at the present, he didn't chase him away. So it's very, very surprising because the other security agent supposed to have stopped the attacker, not the owner of the shop. But when the police did is to use tigers and owner of the shop, why allowing the attacker to invade the shop?
This morning, a group of approximately 30 individuals gathered at the King Dinizulu Park, indicating that they wanted to march to the City Hall to hand over a memorandum. Police informed them that they would not be allowed to march. Whilst this was happening, another group converged in the city and began looting shops. Reports were received of 2 shops as well as a stall belonging to a street vendor that was set alight. Police officers from Durban Central and Metro Police responded. They pursued the group and one suspect was arrested. He attempted to stab the police officers during the arrest but was quickly subdued without any injury to the arresting officers. Some stolen items were recovered from the arrested suspect. An operation is still ongoing to identify and arrest the other perpetrators. A case of public violence has been opened for further investigation. The arrested suspect will also be charged with attempted murder.
Officials in the Central African Republic say government troops have killed 44 rebel fighters who had surrounded the capital Bangui in an attempt to overthrow the new administration. A government spokesperson says the soldiers had captured the village of Border with the help of Russian paramilitaries. Now, there's no independent confirmation of the government claim, and this comes days after it declared a state of emergency to fight the rebels who control 2/3 of the country. They dispute the validity of the President Faustin Archange Touadera's re-election last month. In Uganda, local media reports that soldiers have left the house of opposition leader Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobby Wine. On Monday, a Ugandan court ordered the military and police to leave his house, but the soldiers did not leave his house straight away after the court order. He had not left his house, that's Bobby Wine, in the outskirts of the capital Kampala since voting in the January 14th presidential election, in which he was declared runner-up to President Yoweri Museveni.
I was born free, and I'm free, only that I'm everywhere in chains. As you saw, while the court ordered the police to vacate our premises, we still have police and military helicopters hovering over us. That does not stop us. We are not going to let them to identify us as unfree. We are free, and anything that is trying to take away our freedom will be resisted. It has been an experience of isolation, of torture, of humiliation, having our compound turned into a military garrison, having our employees traumatized, beaten, an experience of hunger. We were not allowed to access our garden. But again, it has been a reminder that we can overcome any kind of stress.
There have been renewed protests in a Tunisian town, Sedbeila, triggered by reports that a young man injured during clashes last week had died in hospital. Soldiers were deployed to government buildings in the town after protesters tried to storm the town's police station. Now, the family of the man who died, Hakiel Rachid, said he was hit by a tear gas canister. He had joined nationwide protests to mark the 10th anniversary of the Tunisian Revolution, which ushered in democracy and triggered the Arab Spring uprisings across the region. Well, fishermen in Uganda are complaining of piles of dead fish washing ashore at the country's Lake Victoria without a clear cause. It is baffling to the fishermen, but some think it might be as a result of climate change.
Piles of dead fish are washing ashore at Uganda's Lake Victoria and without a clear cause, according to the local fishermen. Uganda's Ministry of Agriculture said that a usual phenomenon caused by hypoxia may have led to the deaths, although fishermen in the area told officials the death rate was much higher than in the past.
The lake has become very polluted. That may also be one of the causes. Our children swim in the water sometimes. Mostly the young ones go swimming without their parents' knowledge. Now we fear the water they swim in is what's killing the fish. And we don't know the cause. We don't know how hard it's going to become and where we will end up.
Over the last few years, agricultural chemicals from industry, farms and settlements near Lake Victoria have put stress on the environment and the people. Amos Wamanya is Greenpeace's Africa campaigner.
All these stressors are affecting the lake. They are also affecting the over 3 million livelihoods that depend on this resource.
The Ministry of Agriculture ruled out poisoning, saying that only the Nile perch species have been affected by the phenomenon. It said in a statement that it is suspected the recent storms on the lakes caused mixing of different waters, thereby reducing the oxygen levels, and that further tests were being conducted to determine the definitive reason behind the deaths.
Let's head over now to Egypt to enter a house with 100 faces owned by an Egyptian artist, Fadi Francis. From Britain's Queen Elizabeth to the mummy of ancient Egypt King Ramses II, he has made dolls of famous international personalities, which he houses in his Cairo home.
Walking into this Egyptian artist's home comes with a greeting from Britain's Queen Elizabeth and the mummy of ancient Egyptian King Ramses II. The two international personalities, along with dozens of others, make up sculptures which Fadi Francis has on display in his downtown Cairo home, a hobby he has been perfecting for 2 years.
I started with art when I was around 3 years old. Living in Luxor back then really impacted me because I loved monuments and art. This really affected my personality and in liking the art of drawing. Later on, in 2018, by mere chance, I started making forms from white ceramic paste and discovered I have a talent in sculpting.
Francis uses thermal clay to carve and color in every minute detail of some who have become celebrity icons, including Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, Diego Maradona, Steve Jobs, and others. So far, the 29-year-old artist finished 82 sculptures. He's planning to finish his full collection of 100 sculptures of influential personalities in 2 months and hopes to exhibit them later.
I was very keen when choosing the characters, so they were from countries all over the world. You will find personalities from Latin America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. This diversity is very important for me because the project is about 100 international personalities. It is also important that they work in different fields. They are artists, football players, actors. I was keen to have this diversity. Some of these personalities also spread peace in the world.
Francis was born in the southern city of Luxor and was raised by his artist mother and Egyptologist father, who both nurtured his love for art and photography. His passion for painting started when he was only 3. He studied fine art on his own besides his work as a journalist when he moved to Cairo in 2008.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.